Maluku Podcast.
Hey, what's good, everyone? Ghazali Ohorella here with daily debrief of COP26, day number 9. We've arrived at, well, what I usually do is to go through the events of the day, only by myself or with others as well. Today, my good friend Tomo has joined me. Probably because I'm so fried, my brains are fried. So probably Tomo has a little bit more information to share, and in terms of the experiences, in terms of activities that we've done, can like add if I forget for something. For those that didn't keep score, it took me like 15 minutes to get into the venue today. Nothing weird about that. I think hopefully we can stay consistent for the duration of the remainder of COP26. And something I would like to share with you is this bad boy over here. There's like Iron Brew.
Are you giving indigenous people free ad for
Yeah, like
Scottish beverage?
product placement. Actually tastes no sugar whatsoever. At least that's what it claims. But I think I deserve some. Oh my god! It has a little bit of it's super sweet, like orange juice kind of thing, but then carbonated and bubble gum.
Yeah.
That's the vibe.
I don't think any Scottish people ever explain it to me what it actually is.
Yeah.
They say,
no.
"Oh, it's a drink with flavor." Or
Right.
something.
Oh, sorry.
Hard to
out of the
explain.
frame.
That's what they say.
Right. Let's go through. Let's go through the events of the day. This morning, virtual caucus. Well, I was standing in line, so I can really, because you're not allowed to have a phone call in line, right? It is at least if they catch you have a phone call, then they'll probably tell you to have to hang up your phone. At least I heard some security guards say that. At first, I thought like it's only photographs. You're not allowed to record or take photos, but now apparently you're also not allowed to have a phone call with relatives, family. I don't know. So I missed most of the Zoom conversation. Were you on the caucus meeting this morning?
Yes, obviously the caucus today was virtual. Unfortunately, there were some cases of positive COVID tests in our vicinity, and unfortunately, we were kind of working half-staffed at the venue. But obviously, there are people staying at the hotel, abundance of precaution, still participating through virtual means, and I don't think that really affected the way indigenous peoples work today.
It was different.
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah.
But yes, the big discussion today in the caucus was to do with the cover decision and updates on the Article 6 that were published early this morning.
All right.
And in many ways, we spent some time responding or gathering thoughts on the published documents, which we can probably talk about later.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, of course, the next course of action, given that many of us were participating not just the caucus but the entire day today at COP virtually. So it was a strange day. Not a full house like
we normally have.
Yeah. But nevertheless, I would say most important or vital work of the indigenous peoples.
We've been able to continue to do, right? And which is obviously these were all precautionary measures. Everyone and so far everyone is okay in terms of health. So let's yeah, let's hope for the best that we can have a quote unquote normal caucus tomorrow. But obviously, we're alert. I would say like we're more alert right now. Not that we're not alert, but there's how should I put it? Yeah, I think we're more careful,
Yeah.
a little bit more careful around the next couple of days. Um, After caucus meeting, coordination meeting of Article 6 team, what we usually do is go through like, all right, what do we know so far? What were the events of the day before? So yesterday, what did we learn? And yeah, what can we expect for today? New text.
Yep.
Yeah. And a cover decision, right?
Yes.
Which threw us a little bit off guard. Or not off guard. It all of a sudden our attention shifted from Article 6 to the cover decision. I'm not really happy with it. I know that cover decision is obviously of interest, but you do have to question whether we should go all in terms of as a Article 6 team should also focus on the cover decision. Like I don't know, like, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think, well, for those of you don't know what cover decision is, cover decision is basically an overall conclusion of COP26, but as well as kind of trying to get a consensus around the current state of the Paris Agreement, and whether countries can agree on the actual status of where we are in relation to Paris Agreement that was signed in 2015, but also to provide more guidance and perhaps a more ambitious commitment to kind of give life to Paris Agreement that has been, I don't know, slightly turning stale for the last 5 years. So
Right.
This cover decision is basically this decision that sits on top of all the decisions that are being made or not made.
Is it
at the Paris
enforceable?
Agreement.
Is it actionable?
Um,
People will
Well, it is something that we can use as a reminder in the future. This is what we have kind of agreed at this conference in terms of setting a new path and guidance for the future. So it is, while it is not to say that is so to say enforceable in that sense, but it is one to say we agreed at this time that we will go ambitious. What happens, in the future if the countries are not being ambitious enough, they can go back to this document and say, hey, we at this point we agreed. This is how we see the situation. What is going on?
In layman's terms, could it be seen as like a executive summary, as in like a like a short version of what is going to be what has been discussed? Okay.
Sure.
All right.
We can call it that. Yeah.
And just for sake of argument, I'm sure, I'm sure that a lot of international law experts and negotiators will be like, holy hell, what is he talking about? But just in for sake of argument, for sake of so that you understand what's going on. All right, cover decision. The thing is obviously on Article 6, and just to pivot a little bit into like why we're actually still engaging in these negotiations, ministerial process right now. In the what's it called, in our coordination meeting, I heard some options in terms of language. Obviously, the position paper that we've shared is a minimum standard, is a bottom line. Some parties have come back with revised text, as in as in suggestions, as in proposals, and asking, well, what do you think about this? For example, free platform consent is on the table right now, which is what we want in there. as an international standard, as domestic approaches, or what was it, domestic
Arrangement.
arrangements, doesn't cover the FPIC, obviously.
Yeah.
And so we want international standards in there. And then the proposal was to include or replace international standards for UN Declaration on Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And I think sounds great. However, my looking at the negotiations landscape, looking at in the previously negotiations, my in terms of strategy, I thought it was not a something that I would recommend the caucus to accept in terms of the language proposal, as in like it would open a Pandora's box. So then if you say UN Declaration, then somebody else would say ILO Convention 169, and then the Rio Plus 20, the Future We Want agreement, and that we could veer off into like in a whirlpool of documents, and it would definitely we could even lose the entire paragraph, and that's what I think at least one of my considerations when I saw the paragraph or heard the proposal. But I think in terms of position, we remained to push the position paper, right? That is still we're not making any changes in that. What else happened today?
Well, I mean, we can go back to this cover letter there, because there are a lot of references to Indigenous peoples and their rights, and obviously part of that covers the local community Indigenous peoples platform, because there was one of the decisions that was reached at substa level, and obviously that's part of the cover draft that mentions welcomes the work of the platform and the work plan that was adopted with it. But obviously there's a lot of ambiguity still. Of course, the cover draft came out with UK stating that it is the most ambitious cover draft it can possibly be, and then it will be negotiated to be perhaps watered down. I think that's what I kind of understood by what he meant by saying this is the most ambitious draft, and then we will work through it clause by clause. But the ambiguities, like for example, the parties reaffirm or commit to the target set by Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement sets the target temperature increase below 2 degrees and preferably 1.5. So we don't really know which target they're talking about. When they say we are aiming to stay with the target of the Paris Agreement. I think the second point is that a lot of civil society organizations, environmental NGOs were really keen on seeing a reference to phasing out of fossil fuel in draft decision, and to remind ourselves, in the last 25 years since the beginning of UNFCCC and COP, there has never been a reference being made to kind of state that fossil fuel is one of the primary drivers of carbon emission. But in this cover letter, we do see a reference calling on parties to phase out coal and subsidies for fossil fuel. So it's not phasing out fossil fuel, but it's phasing out the subsidies for fossil fuel, which is, when we read carefully, we find these so-called loopholes in these texts that would kind of that would be seen as watering down the ambitious commitment that we're trying to make. And obviously, there are a lot of reports suggesting that there has been a lot of presence of fossil fuel lobbies at this COP. So these strong presence of different lobby groups, certainly we see that affects the outcome. But again, this is not just for the fossil fuel lobbies, but indigenous peoples are also here, and I think they are also trying their best to influence the outcome in their favor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think through the friendly states parties within to the Paris Agreement or the UNFCCC, sorry. We are trying to push language in terms of expanding the coverage decision that it covers indigenous peoples, the rights of indigenous peoples, and has a stronger language. There's been requests from several parties. I've been getting text messages and also through members of our team as well, getting requests like, hey, what as indigenous peoples, as an indigenous conflict, what do you want to see reflected in the text so that we can take it into account into our into our statements as parties.
But let me ask you, what do you think the overall temperature of the negotiation right now? Reflecting on the stock take, which took place this morning.
So stock take was I missed half of it because I had a bilat with U.S. congressman, which was pretty interesting as well. Very interesting actually. Missed half of it, but in terms of and we keep each other informed. We keep each other updated through the WhatsApp group. Like, hey, this is what's going on. Any interesting comments that are being made, and so in that sense, I was kept apprised of things that were going on. I walked in, I think, a couple of minutes before I believe European Union took the floor, and you do see that instead of like the experts, that you now actually have heads of delegations, actually like political powerhouses that are actually taking the floor, which also, and because they're taking the floor, it is also very important that to read into what they're saying and what they're not saying. So if in this ministerial or in this global stock take, when a high-level representative of a government takes the floor and says something about in support of human rights or in the rights of indigenous peoples, that's quite a commitment in terms of the negotiations, or it describes like a willingness to invest political capital into the negotiations, saying, hey, this is what we want. What we've learned is that the COP presidency requested parties and party groupings to highlight, all right, what are the three major things, the key things that you want to see reflected. So, and if a party in the global stock take mentions human rights, and not just human rights, but also rights of indigenous peoples, because before Madrid, it was just human rights. Now it is like human rights and the rights of indigenous peoples. So I think is already a huge win, and we're not even close to the actual adoption of the text yet, potential adoption of the text yet. So in terms of temperature of the room, I see that there's to be honest, I don't see any bridging proposals. I haven't heard any landing zones yet. In terms of the sticky issues, but I did hear quite a number of references to human rights and the rights of indigenous peoples. So there are two things: human rights, that it's mentioned, sticky issues. I haven't heard any landing zones yet. Based on what I've heard, obviously, in the part that I was part of the watching the stock take. I don't know what your take was.
I mean, we have to kind of understand that human rights safeguard and environmental safeguard is just one aspect of whole host of issues,
and not the biggest issue,
right? That the states are trying to pan out, and this is kind of reflected in statements by various countries, where when the stock take is being conducted, They refer to a wide range of issues in different negotiations. And when they refer to Article 6 in particular, a lot of countries were more or less concerned about other major issues that is more to do with the integrity of the market and overall mitigation rather than the safeguard. But when the safeguards were mentioned, then the rights of indigenous peoples were often taken up, like you
Right.
said, in connection with human rights.
Yeah.
So that's like this. When people talk about human rights, people automatically kind of connect,
Rights of
indigenous peoples.
Yeah.
This is something
Of
that peoples, yeah,
or people like EU.
yeah.
Right? Well, you mentioned it. Like I was like, I thought I heard.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to hear rights of
Yeah.
indigenous peoples.
Yeah.
And he said rights of also rights of indigenous people. I don't know. Is it?
Well, it's. I think at the beginning it's very hard to kind of, people is already plural for many foreign
Absolutely,
speakers.
yeah.
So I think S can be quite quite uncomfortable thing.
However,
Yeah.
as a high level representative of
Absolutely,
the
absolutely.
government,
Yes.
like devil's in the details. So I think it's not a slip.
No.
It's not like it is an intentional thing.
Yeah, could be.
Could be.
Yeah. But nevertheless, I think the intent
Intent is there.
maybe intentional.
Yeah.
But I think everyone else might have heard it as indigenous people.
As I've heard it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stock take. So.
Yeah.
It's Honduras stopped by. No, Honduras. No, Panama. By the way, Panama stopped by the office, and was the lead negotiator of Panama, which was interesting. As in, and this is what happens, right? So some representatives we have to schedule a meeting, go to them, and some representatives come to us.
Yeah.
And which was an interesting meeting. It was pretty ad hoc, but yeah, it was interesting in terms of it was fast, and so not sugarcoating it. All right, went through the precision paper, and on activity design, international arrangements or international standards, 3.1%, and he came immediately and he started writing. Immediately, all right, what if instead of international arrangements, UN Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples? And then it came up with the rebuttal. All right, that's not working. So what about international treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements? I said, well, there might be a problem as well for other countries.
Yeah.
Not for us. But so in that 20-minute tops max bilateral, there was a lot of we became a lot smarter. There was on both sides, as in trying to try out new language, trying to figure out like what works, doesn't work, and also trying to figure out like what is the position of indigenous peoples, and what is the position of Panama. So just to give people an insight in terms of like how a bilateral usually goes in this ad hoc environment as close to the finish line that we are. Yeah.
I think when Ghazali or others talk about language, it's very, very complex kind of sets of like a skill to understand why is international standard worse than say rights of indigenous peoples, or when we say these countries are trying to work out on languages. I mean, we're talking about
words,
minor details, comma, and these are some of the skills that I personally came to learn. When going through these draft decisions, and maybe Ghazali can give a whole class on this language issue, but it is word by word. It's debated, and that's what's going on right now with Article 6 and cover decisions.
Right.
on top of real political disagreements
Right. Absolutely.
that are happening. Yeah.
Tomo, we could talk at length about what happened today. Anything that we missed? Anything that?
Well, one of the things that surprised a lot of people today is when the U.S. and China came out
Mm.
To declare a joint statement on climate change and Paris Agreement. And this is significant because U.S. and China are two of the biggest emitters which without their leadership and their ambition we would not achieve the 2 degrees or 1.5. And obviously they came out to say we are committed, that both countries are committed to reach their target. But again, we have to take that again with a grain of salt, as with many other pledges that have been made so far at this COP.
Yeah.
That there is nothing really concrete in terms of how they're going to do it. Get into the detail of how they're going to concretely cut emissions. And of course, a lot of it will, whether that particular commitment by two biggest emitters will actually result in different kind of flow or different atmosphere and negotiation in the room, I'm still not quite convinced.
No.
We kind of passed by without a lot of attention, really.
Right.
But but yeah, it is Secretary Kerry or Special Envoy John Kerry and his counterpart in China came out with a statement. So I'm not quite sure whether that would take us to a new kind of renewed how do you put it, renewed energy,
right?
In the decision that is going to be reached. And then the UK come out and said we're still far short from achieving the level of ambition that they are hoping.
Boris Johnson came in his he came, right? He came today, to say to himself, so not the COP presidency but Boris Johnson himself, to kick us in the ass, to come up with ambitious text and solutions.
But they just keep saying that we are committed to finish on time, and again that would involve a serious, hard, tough compromises.
That will be like bold choices. Bold choices need to be made, and not necessarily like positive.
Right.
The positive inclination of it.
Yeah. So whether that bold move is going to affect negatively for the safeguards, that is still up in the air.
What do you think? As indigenous peoples, having seen all this, how will this all play out? Do we sit back, relax, enjoy the ride, or is there still a lot of things to do? Honest opinion.
I feel like this is enough for me to decide, but I think there is still a lot. I mean, based on what I have observed in Madrid and Katowice, I think there's still a lot that the indigenous peoples can do.
Right.
There is still opportunity for bilaterals, and still opportunity to do political actions. I don't know what other constituencies are really planning at this stage in terms of
escalating,
taking their advocacy campaign to a new level. It has happened in Madrid. It has happened in I'm not sure in any other COPs, but
Katowice.
But when the situation is so urgent as this, I think it is quite obvious to think that other constituencies are also urgently trying to make their voices heard.
So still a lot of work to do, obviously. So, and I think as indigenous peoples, in terms of actions that we need to continue having bilaterals, contact with experts of member states or parties, and high level representatives, as
Yeah.
in ministers, and also leverage any contact you might have
Yeah.
at capital.
Yeah.
At the domestic level, to push for any moving
Yeah.
their delegations over here in Glasgow, in terms of becoming a champion
Yeah.
for our priorities, three priorities that we have, which means protect it and also reach out to other parties to do it.
Yeah.
Final question, Tomo. Your prediction: Will we? Let me start with the easy one. Final gavel, Friday or Saturday?
I think it's sad. I think it's Saturday, late Saturday, if not even Sunday morning.
Okay.
I think there are still a huge gap with regards to key aspects of Article 6, which I won't go into details.
Probably on Friday or
but
Saturday.
those gaps are are divisions of major economic powerhouses between developing and developed countries, between I don't know, a considerable grouping of countries still divided on many issues, and they're not going to, especially things like climate finance, they're not going to leave here empty-handed, and they want commitments and ambition. So that those things, I'm not quite sure we will finish by Friday. It's meant to finish at 9:00 on Friday.
No, definitely not.
It's gonna go down to the wire, if not past the deadline.
Yeah. Sound like a train is going to.
Where are we, Ghazali?
We're in building F, Foxtrot, the meeting room hall where all the meeting rooms are, including plenary room. This is a working station, I believe.
Yes.
Where people can work
or have lunch,
or have Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
And it's quite deserted right now because we're probably like the last ones standing.
But let me ask you this: Is it ridiculous that there will be a language on human rights by Friday 9:00?
No.
I
see what, I see what you did there. I taught you well. Calibrated questions. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that once we have. We should talk a little bit more about like the details of it,
the art of the deal.
The art of the deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
The art of the deal when we have the final text.
Yeah.
When the gavel lands and there is human rights. Hopefully also participation, and hopefully there's also an independent grievance mechanism. But hope it's not a strategy. So we keep on working. Tomorrow, stock take
again.
Stock take at 11. So we'll see what parties have. If there were bridging proposals, if there were landing zones, to see if we have gotten any closer to an actual text on Article 6. Yes. Much remains to be done. Much remains to be reported back on.
I would expect to be human rights, to be any rights of indigenous peoples to be coming up somewhat in the stock take more often as they try to solve these difficult questions. Of course, human rights will be part of the discussion because it's still bracketed. And if there is a real concern by parties that the safeguards are being ignored, then we expect to see some pushback from countries that has rights safeguards and environmental safeguards as red line.
Yeah.
So we hope to see more of that discussion happening.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, Thomas, thank you so much. We either go home or go to a karaoke bar. We haven't decided yet. Well, I think I've decided already.
Yeah, it's a bit late.
It's a little bit late.
Yeah.
Everyone else, thank you so much for joining this daily debrief. So tomorrow, new debrief. probably a new place. I'll try to find a new place to do a debrief, and hopefully with more information. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Stay
Cheers,
safe.
everyone. Stay safe, healthy. Have a good evening, morning, afternoon, and night.